Welcome back to the channel. Today, we're tackling a topic that's heavier than usual, but crucial for anyone who loves to travel: the Trump presidency. We're not here for partisan debate, but to explore how those 4 years sent shockwaves through the world of travel, creating obstacles and anxieties that many of us felt firsthand. This is about borders, policies, and the human desire to explore. We'll look at real impacts: families separated, businesses struggling, and the ripple effects on global mobility. If you value thoughtful travel content, please subscribe. It helps keep these conversations going. Now, let's dive into the top 5 shocking travel impacts of the Trump presidency. Let's start with the travel bans, the policy that changed everything overnight. One day people were boarding planes, ready to start new lives or visit family. The next, they were turned away, their visas suddenly invalid. The so-called Muslim ban targeted several countries, justified as national security, but the reality was chaos and heartbreak. Airport officials were confused, lawyers rushed to terminals, and families were left in limbo. Imagine saving for years, getting a visa, saying goodbye to loved ones, only to be told at the border that the rules changed while you were in the air. This wasn't just news, it was real people's lives upended. Students, doctors, grandparents, all caught in the crossfire. The bans kept evolving, but the message was clear: America was becoming harder to enter. Visa restrictions tightened, interviews became longer, and the process more invasive. The chilling effect spread. People worldwide began to wonder if the US was still a welcoming place. Families were separated, spouses stuck abroad, children unable to see grandparents, Americans left waiting and worrying. International business suffered. The US lost out on talent, conferences, and collaboration as people chose friendlier destinations. Tourism operators specializing in visitors from affected regions saw their businesses vanish. The bans sent a loud message: certain people were not welcome. Even before this, getting a US visa was tough. Now it felt arbitrary. Criteria could change at any moment. Legal battles raged, but for travelers, the uncertainty was paralyzing. Do you risk booking a flight? What if the rules change again? The result? America's reputation as a beacon of hope was damaged. Walls went up, not just at borders, but in hearts and minds. The bans severed connections, broke up families, and stifled the exchange of ideas and culture. In the name of security, they created profound insecurity for millions. The impact was personal, immediate, and lasting. For many, the dream of America became a nightmare of uncertainty. The travel bans didn't just close doors, they closed futures. The world watched, and many turned away. The message was clear: travel to the US was now a risk. The chilling effect on global mobility was real and measurable. The US lost its status as a welcoming destination. The bans changed how the world saw America, and how America saw itself. The legacy of these policies lingers, shaping travel decisions to this day. For travelers, the journey became fraught with anxiety and doubt. The walls we didn't see were the hardest to overcome, and for many, the journey never even began. After the travel bans, the next impact was fewer visitors. The US experienced the Trump slump, a sharp decline in international tourism, even as global travel boomed elsewhere. Millions fewer tourists meant billions lost for local economies, from New York to Las Vegas. Every lost visitor was a lost hotel stay, a missed restaurant meal, a tour guide without work. The economic pain was real. Jobs were cut, small businesses struggled, and entire communities felt the pinch. The tougher visa process and stories of harsh border treatment spread fast, making travelers think twice. Why risk a hostile entry when you could vacation in Italy or Australia instead? America's soft power took a hit. Fewer tourists meant fewer chances for cultural exchange and understanding. The travel industry tried to fight back with Visit US campaigns, but the damage was done. Even educational tourism suffered. International student enrollment dropped, hurting both diversity and university budgets. Medical tourism declined too, as patients sought care in friendlier countries. Every lost tourist was a missed opportunity for connection and revenue. The decline was a self-inflicted wound, driven by rhetoric and policy. America's brand as a welcoming destination was tarnished. The consequences showed up in empty hotel rooms and billions in lost dollars. The message was simple: travel here at your own risk. The world listened, and many stayed away. The Trump slump was more than a statistic. It was a warning. Words and policies matter, and their impact rippled across the globe. The US lost ground as a top travel destination. The effects are still being felt today. Tourism, once a bridge, became a barrier. Let's turn to America's own treasures, national parks and public lands. During these years, landmark protections were rolled back. Bears Ears and Grand Staircase Escalante shrank dramatically, the largest reduction in U.S. history. The official line was returning controlled estates, but for travelers and conservationists it felt like a loss. These lands hold natural beauty and deep cultural significance, now open to mining and drilling. The message protected status isn't permanent. Preservation can be undone overnight. For travelers, this created anxiety. Would these places still exist, unspoiled, when they finally visited? Park fees were set to rise sharply, threatening to price out families and undermine the idea that these lands belong to everyone. Leadership shifted toward commercial interests, relaxing environmental rules and prioritizing resource extraction. The experience of visiting a national park, solitude, clean air, wildlife, was threatened by industrial activity. Science was sidelined. Climate change research was downplayed, putting the park's future at risk. International tourists, drawn by America's wild spaces, saw a country devaluing its own heritage. The world noticed, and the appeal of U.S. parks dimmed. The policies raise fundamental questions. Are these lands treasures to be preserved or resources to be exploited? The direction taken suggested the latter, to the dismay of travelers everywhere. The anxiety wasn't just about getting there, it was about what would be left to see. The legacy of these years is a new uncertainty about America's natural wonders. For many, the parks became symbols of what was at stake. The question remains, will these places endure for future generations? The airline industry faced its own storm: trade wars, regulatory upheaval, and rising costs. Tariffs on steel and aluminum made building planes more expensive, driving up ticket prices for travelers. Trade disputes with China led to fewer flights and less competition, making travel pricier and less accessible. The U.S. pulled back from open skies agreements, threatening decades of progress in affordable international travel. Fewer low-cost carriers meant higher fares and fewer choices. The 737 MAX crisis, mishandled by regulators, damaged trust in U.S. aviation safety. International authorities stopped following the FAA's lead, creating new anxieties for travelers. Strained diplomatic ties risked airspace agreements, forcing airlines onto longer, costlier routes. Airlines, facing uncertainty, cut back on expansion and squeezed more revenue from existing routes. More fees, less comfort. The golden age of cheap, accessible air travel suddenly felt fragile. For travelers, flying became more stressful, expensive, and unpredictable. The policies favored caution and profit over passenger experience. The result, a less open, less connected world. The skies grew less friendly, and the barriers to travel rose. The impact was felt in every delayed flight, every extra fee, every missed opportunity to explore. The future of air travel became uncertain, just when we needed connection most. The turbulence wasn't just in the air, it was in the policies shaping our journeys. Beyond policies and numbers, the heaviest impact was the anxiety and uncertainty that colored every trip. Travel, once about freedom and discovery, became fraught with stress. The political climate made every plan feel risky. Rules could change overnight, often with a tweet. Americans abroad found themselves answering for their country's politics, sometimes facing hostility or awkward questions. For many, travel meant being an unwilling ambassador for divisive policies. The unpredictability made booking trips a gamble. What if new restrictions hit while you were away? Minority travelers felt especially vulnerable, with stories of harassment and suspicion on the rise. Even U.S. citizens faced tougher scrutiny at the border, turning airports into places of tension. The constant news cycle of turmoil made it hard to relax or feel safe exploring. Families with loved ones abroad lived in fear of sudden separations. The joy of spontaneous travel faded, replaced by caution and second-guessing. Even road trips within the U.S. felt different, as political divisions deepened. The sense of not being welcome in certain places was a new, unsettling reality. This emotional baggage didn't show up in statistics, but it was real. It weighed on every traveler, shaping decisions and experiences. The biggest barrier became the fear and uncertainty itself. Travel is supposed to connect us, but for many, it became a source of anxiety. The baggage we carried was invisible, but heavy. Looking back, it's clear the policies of those 4 years reshaped travel in profound ways. Families were kept apart, economies suffered, and America's reputation changed. The lesson? Decisions made in power have real consequences for our freedom to explore and connect. If you value these conversations, please subscribe and share. Your support keeps this channel going. Travel is an act of optimism. By learning from the past, we can advocate for a future where travel is more open, welcoming, and powerful. Thanks for watching. Stay curious, stay compassionate, and see you next time. Let me know if you need further tightening or adjustments.